So, something that's really interesting, as I was talking on the last slide about how Roman plays are almost all Greek adaptations, um, this is basically thought to be true because of what has survived in terms of Roman plays. During the Roman Republic, um, plays from only two playwrights, Terence and Plautus, exist, and they are all Greek adaptations. And then from the Roman Empire days, once the Roman emperor took over the rule of Rome, from the Roman Empire days, all but one of the existing Roman tragedies that survived are by the playwright Seneca. 9 of his plays survive, and they are all adapted from Greek tragedies. We are going to be reading Seneca's adaptation of Medea, so that we can kind of see what a Roman playwright did with a Greek play and how he kind of put a Roman spin on it. I think that's kind of the best way to see what Roman theater was like, to see a play that we already know that was written by a Greek playwright, and then to look at what a Roman playwright did with it and say, like, this really shows me what the Roman theatrical culture was all about, because look at these differences that he made. This shows me what was more important in the Roman culture versus the Greek culture. So let's get into Seneca a little bit on this slide. What's interesting is there's actually no evidence that his plays were ever presented in Rome's public theaters. We don't know if they were ever performed or if they were just written. But they became major influences in the Renaissance. They helped shape the tragedy of the age of Shakespeare. So the characteristics of Seneca's plays are really important to note. Anything that influenced Shakespeare always gets noted in theater history, because we all know Billy Shakes is a big guy in theater history. So here we go. I'm going to detail for you 7 characteristics of Seneca's plays. And I really want you to pay important attention to these 7 characteristics, because you're going to be reading a Seneca play. So while you're reading Seneca's version of Medea, I want you to be thinking about these 7 characteristics and see if you can see them popping up in his play. So first characteristic, his plays were typically divided into 5 episodes, or maybe what we would call 5 acts now. They were fairly short acts, so don't be thinking like, oh my God, this is going to take me forever to read. They were pretty short, more like 5 scenes, I think we would maybe consider it today. And usually there was a choral interlude in between each of the episodes that didn't really relate much to the action. It just kind of broke up the 5 episodes. Characteristic number 2. He used a lot of soliloquies, asides, and confidants. A soliloquy is when a character will speak alone on stage, so that the audience can hear their thoughts being spoken aloud and know what's going on inside the character's head. An aside is when one character will say something to another character. And if there are other characters on stage, the audience is supposed to know that those other characters cannot hear the aside between the 2 characters. And again, Seneca used confidants. So one character would serve as another character's confidant. That character was able to kind of like spill their guts to this one character. And that way the audience was able to hear, again, what was going on inside that character's head, because they conveniently had this one other character that they would spill their guts to. So we got to hear all their guts as well. Characteristic number 3. Seneca made extensive use of elaborate speeches. Characteristic number 4, Seneca made a lot of generalizations about the human condition in his plays in order to reinforce like moral points about humanity that he was trying to get across. Number 5. His plays show a preoccupation with magic and death, and kind of an intermingling between the human and superhuman worlds. Number 6, Seneca created characters who are dominated by a single obsessive passion, such as revenge, that ends up driving them to their doom. And number 7, Seneca uses really sensational, like over the top details, or like deeds, actions by the character or characters to illustrate the evils of unrestrained emotion. For example, in Oedipus, in Seneca's Oedipus, Jocasta rips open her womb right on stage. I mean, it's just like, whoa, this violent, like over the top. Oh my God, why did Seneca have her do that right in front of us? To illustrate the evils of a character having unrestrained emotion, which the Romans would not be a fan of. So it was like, shouldn't have done that. Shouldn't have unrestrained emotion. All of these types of characteristics were widely copied, and we can kind of revisit them later after we get to the Renaissance and Shakespeare and see if we can spot these influences from Seneca.